This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
What's going on, everybody, guys and girls? Welcome back to another edition of the SmackDown Review right here on the WWE Podcast. As always, I am one of the hosts of the show, Michael Ritter. You can find me on X at MichaelRitter5, Instagram at Michael5Ritter, and also one of the hosts of the Football Function podcast, available on all of your preferred podcasting platforms, including on Patreon, if you prefer an ad-free experience, which is the best way to listen to not only that show, but this show as well, and all of the other shows on the WWE Podcast. Ad-free episodes, access to a Discord server. There's a group chat in the Discord or in the Patreon app as well. So you get to communicate with the host, communicate with the other patrons, and obviously give suggestions and any type of feedback, which is much appreciated by me and all the other hosts here on the WWE Podcast. I do want to thank you guys for tuning in here to get a recap of what happened on the SmackDown that aired on December 22, 2023. Now, this was a pre-tape show, so it wasn't taped on the 22nd of December. It was actually just released to the public. So it was an entertaining episode of SmackDown. We can go ahead and get into that pretty much right away. I felt like this one was noticeably different than other pre-taped holiday shows. I went into it knowing that was going to be the case in terms of, the pre-taped aspect. I didn't know what we were going to expect from the show. That's, I'm not claiming to know it was going to be a great show. I went into it thinking that, all right, it's a pre-taped show. We're not going to get anything juicy. It's probably going to be loaded with video packages or some type of filler. Maybe dark match after dark match after dark match where it's just up and comers, maybe from NXT or something like that. I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. Like, this was kind of an interesting approach that they took. It's nothing different. Like I said, we've seen pre-taped holiday shows time and time again, but this one was not phoned in the slightest. This one didn't feel like it was any less important than any of the other SmackDowns. I mean, we got Roman Reigns on this show, even though it was pre-taped. We still got a chance to see the Tribal Chief, which isn't usually the case on a live episode of SmackDown. So there were multiple different reasons to appreciate the way that WWE did this one. It just, it might just kind of show you that they are in a really good situation, whereas it's more hard for them not to put together a great show with all the talent that they have and the compelling storylines. It would be more difficult for them not to put together an interesting episode of SmackDown. It's almost like the show Boy Meets World, which is a show that I really, really like. They have a bad habit of bringing on characters and opening up storylines that they don't necessarily close. And the reason behind that, I feel like, is because Boy Meets World had the benefit of having really talented writers, so they were just really good at making compelling characters. Like, they were just really good at presenting people that you got invested in. They were really good at making you care, even though you weren't supposed to. It was supposed to be a one-off episode, a one-off appearance. But because it was so interesting and you got attached to it, you're left wanting more. You're left wondering what happened to that character. Why didn't they come back? There was a storyline that didn't get the loose ends tied up. So I totally understand that. And I feel like WWE is kind of in a similar boat where they're just, the creative team is in their bag right now. Whoever is booking these programs, all the feuds, whether it's on Raw and or SmackDown, they're cooking. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the talent that's at hand. They have so many talented superstars at their disposal that it's so easy for them to just book a 5-star match, to book a A1 promo, It's more hard for them not to put together something that, would leave us happy as, the viewing audience. But that's just kind of my opinion on this. I felt like this kind of really shaped the way that I view WWE right now at this very moment. Because I had a lot of confidence in the product. I knew that things were going to get good and we're going to be, in for a treat as wrestling fans, especially WWE fans here because of how loaded the roster is. But whenever they hit a holiday episode out of the park, I think that kind of separates it just a little bit. It does make it a little bit more of okay, we need to recalibrate our expectations because WWE might finally be able to deliver. You may not agree with who wins the matches. That's always going to be subjective, and it's never going to please everybody. But with their consistency and the quality of all of their programs that they have going on and the way that they're able to build internally, develop their own superstars, I think that's huge. It's huge for the company, and right now they're leaning on veterans while sprinkling in some of their up-and-coming talent and some of the guys that they've been developing for years, So I think that this is a really great time to be a WWE fan as we close 2023, and I think the future is extremely bright whenever you look at what's ahead for the 2024 calendar year. But we've already mentioned that this was a pre-tape show, so it was from the same location as last week in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Shout out to DJ Kuzmo for the location breakdown, and he did come through this week as well. He made sure to remind me, hey, it's from the same location that it was last week, same arena. It's from the exact same night that we saw everything take place last week. So Green Bay is known for passion. It's not a very big city. If you look at Lambeau Field, if you just, exit whatever entrance that you can get to at Lambeau Field, take a look maybe like 100 yards in any direction, and you're going to see a neighborhood. Like, Green Bay is not a very big city. In fact, I live in a town called Amarillo, Texas, home of Terry Funk. You guys already know that if you're a longtime listener of this show. Green Bay is actually smaller than the city that I live in. And they have an NFL team. Think about that. That's crazy. The fact that Green Bay, Wisconsin is able to have an NFL franchise and still be considered some of the most passionate fans in the league, that tells you everything you need to know about Green Bay fans. So if you're telling me that, WWE needed to find a place where they can host a regular 2-hour show of SmackDown and then immediately after the show have another show like bam, back to back. We need a crowd that's going to be able to, keep that passion going and make it a good episode of SmackDown. And I think that Green Bay was an excellent choice. I think they really held it down and represented well for the cheeseheads there. I saw a bunch of Packers jerseys in the crowd. It's something that's never going to go away anytime you go to, a WWE show. That's something that I always appreciated as a kid. Like, anytime, just me being a Falcons fan, I would see a Michael Vick jersey in the crowd, like during the Ruthless Aggression era. It was always something that just made me feel a little bit connected because, growing up in the Texas Panhandle, there's not a lot of Falcons fans around here. So I wasn't surrounded by people that I could talk about the team with as, a fan to fan. And there was no social media really at the time. So seeing a person that was probably a fan of your favorite team on television, it was like, hey, cool, there's another Falcons fan right there. So that was always a nice thing to see. But let's go ahead and get into this episode of SmackDown. Like I said, phenomenal. It did not disappoint. It was a really star-studded show. We got developments with AJ Styles and his heel turn. We even got a little bit of a sighting from the OC. We saw an encounter from them. They kind of called him out. We'll get to that. And then obviously Randy Orton, LA Knight, both were pretty prominent parts of the opening and closing parts of the show. We get Roman Reigns. Anytime we get Roman Reigns on the show, it's going to be meaningful. We get 2 matches to continue the United States Championship Tournament, as well as promos throughout the night from Logan Paul, who, just a little bit of a disclaimer, because I'm really not going to talk about Logan as we get into the actual recap of the show. But I will say just, at the end of the show, whenever the 2 finalists were named for the tournament, Santos Escobar, Kevin Owens, whenever he cut that promo at the end, because he's been doing these little, quick off-site videos where he'll send in a little, shots at Kevin Owens, taking shots at other people who are in the wrestling match. He's been doing that throughout the tournament, and the actual video package after the finals were set between Santos and Kevin, he was just decimating Kevin Owens, obviously called him the human version of Reddit, saying he doesn't want to take his shirt off in the swimming pool, which, let's not take a shot at people who don't take the shirts off in swimming pools, right? Couldn't just be because they're ashamed of what they look like. Sunburns are real. I don't know if you've ever been to Texas or gone swimming in Texas, but it is hot, and that sun is very unforgiving. So, yeah, you'll see some people wearing shirts, and they'll take their shirt off, and they have a six-pack. It has nothing to do with the abs. It has everything to do with I'm trying to protect my skin. But nonetheless, and I know sunscreen, and, it exists. You can go put on sunscreen, but number one, I'm not a huge fan of sunscreen. I was a lifeguard at one point, just a little bit of a side story. I had to put on sunscreen every single day for that entire summer, and you just realize everything you can't do just casually once you put on sunscreen. You can't just go lay down in your bed unless you're a weirdo and you want to put sunscreen all over your bed. You can't just put on one of your favorite shirts because it's going to get sunscreen all over the inside of it. It's going to be weird. It's going to feel weird whenever you're putting it on. Whenever you get into your vehicle to leave, you can't just lean back and put your, back up against your, there's a lot of downsides to wearing sunscreen. So I just want to go ahead and say that. Although I will agree, it's smart. If you're going swimming, I highly recommend wearing sunscreen. But just me personally, I've gone through so much of it over the years that specifically that one summer that I was a lifeguard that I'm not looking forward. I'm not going to go out of my way to put on sunscreen. I don't go swimming as much as I would like, so it's not really an issue for me. But, anyway, back to the shot that Logan Paul took at Kevin Owens saying he doesn't take his shirt off at the swimming pool. There was more to this video package, but I think the main thing that I took away from it is, dude, Logan Paul is going to have a great career in WWE. He is such a good fit. And that's not even just because I'm a WWE guy. Just as a pro wrestler, he was born to do this. He has the personality that not a lot of wrestlers that have been doing this for their entire life could buy. He was born with that gift. Physique, check mark. This dude is, just as big, if not bigger, than a lot of the wrestlers. I mean, go look at guys like Dominic Mysterio. Whenever that whole program was going on, Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios that culminated at WrestleMania 38, that entire time I was like, oh, it's crazy that Dominic's the professional wrestler and Logan Paul is supposed to be the newcomer, the outsider, the quote-unquote celebrity. And it's pretty obvious that Logan Paul would probably kick Dominic's ass. That's just, me going out on a limb here. I don't know if it's a fact or anything like that, but I just personally feel like Logan Paul could hold his own against a lot of pro wrestlers. And the fact that he's actually polishing his game, sharpening his tools, getting more and more comfortable inside the squared circle makes me think that we haven't even seen close to the best of Logan Paul. And if he actually commits to this, like deciding, you know what, this is my calling. I want to be a full-time WWE superstar. Go on the roads, do the live events, be featured in, more prominent roles. I mean, he's the United States champion. I don't want to say that he can be even more prominent, but more consistent, be on TV, be a bigger part of the week in, week out programming of a show like Raw or SmackDown. Like Seth Rollins. When was the last time you watched an episode of Monday Night Raw and there wasn't some type of Seth Rollins appearance, video package, anything like that? Like, Seth is a huge part of Monday Night Raw. There's a reason why they call it Monday Night Rollins. And I think that's kind of, the standard. I guess Seth is setting the standard. He's setting the bar extremely high. I don't know if Logan Paul is ever going to be that, because this is what Seth Rollins eats, breathes, sleeps. He is a pro wrestler through and through. Logan Paul clearly has other options. This isn't, his first career path. But I'm just saying that the potential is there if he were to actually try to commit. And I just saw that with this video package, the promos that he's been cutting. I truly think that he has, quote unquote, it. But let's go ahead and get into the episode of SmackDown here. It starts off with AJ Styles. He comes down to the ring and, pretty much explains himself a little bit. Now, I am going to want to quote my guy Shaquille Majori again from CBS Sports. He does a phenomenal job getting quick recaps out. And he has a phenomenal perspective for wrestling. And I will say just kind of what he, said about this specific segment. This is all I'm going to read from his report, is because I feel like I want you guys to hear this. I don't want to tell you, hey, go read it yourself and, make you go type in things on Google and, find the article and then know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just going to really quickly read it here for you, just so you're able to get an idea as to what I took away from this as well. A serious AJ Styles opens SmackDown by announcing his desire to battle Reigns at the Royal Rumble, an opportunity seemingly earmarked for Randy Orton. pause. I thought the exact same thing. Whenever he came out, opened the show, and he started challenging Roman Reigns, I said to myself, I thought that Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton was all but official. Yeah, Roman Reigns didn't technically agree to it, but that's just textbook heel work right there. Like, I go back and look at every single time someone is challenged for their championship. If they're not a babyface that's a quote-unquote fighting champion, if they're a heel, they're going to say no right out the gate. They're going to make you earn it. They're going to try to make you continue to be persistent and just be like a nuisance to where they finally give you the championship until someone like, Nick Aldis, Adam Pearce, any type of, authority figure steps in and, pretty much makes the match official themselves. But that kind of confused me as well. But AJ Styles said his feud with Reigns takes priority over Randy Orton's and LA Knight's. Out comes LA Knight. The fan favorite told Styles to get behind him in the Reigns Revenge Tour. Knight said that Styles could get some too after sucker punching him last week. And then Orton comes out right after that, reminding both of those two wrestlers that the bloodline sidelined him for 18 months. And then out comes Nick Aldis. He interrupted the bickering and presented a solution. A triple threat match between Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight. That'll take place at a very special New Year's Evolution or Revolution. I don't really know exactly what it is. I thought it was Revolution. I could very well be wrong, so that's on me for sure. But this is going to take place January 5th on an episode of SmackDown. Pretty much the first blockbuster match in the calendar 2024 year for the SmackDown brand, but this match is going to determine the number one contender for Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. Continuing on here, the camera later caught up with the Bloodline backstage. Reigns asked his special counsel, Paul Heyman, who SmackDown's new general manager was, seemingly unaware, and commanded that Heyman bring Nick Aldis in here to his office. Paul Heyman expressed trepidation, but Reigns overruled him. Reigns and Aldis sat down for a meeting. Reigns informed Aldis that everything on SmackDown runs through him, something that Raw general manager Adam Pearce understood. Aldis called Pearce quote-unquote middle management before asserting himself as a proper general manager, an executive, and the sharp end of the stick on SmackDown going forward. Aldis took a subtle jab at Reigns, describing Sikoa's victory over John Cena at Crown Jewel as more impressive than anything Reigns mustered against John Cena. Aldis told Reigns he looks forward to more productive meetings with the undisputed WWE Universal Champion moving forward. And obviously, like I just mentioned, later in the evening, the OC welcomed AJ Styles back on SmackDown. Carl Anderson mentioned how they hadn't heard from Styles and they pretty much were just making sure that everything was good. Styles said, I don't know. Are we? Before walking off. So they're laying the seeds there that the OC is going to implode. I'm not necessarily a big fan of that. I thought this group worked well together as a faction. Why does he have to turn on his group? I feel like we need to hear more from AJ Styles about this. We know why he's pissed off at the Bloodline. That was evident. They showed the video package multiple times of Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso doing what they did to him 3 months ago, which was taking him out of commission. So I don't know what the beef is with his team. Like these guys can still be behind you. I'm sure, hey, you're the leader of the group. If you turn heel, they're probably going to turn heel right behind you. So I don't know. I thought that was a little bit strange, but AJ Styles just getting prepared for his main event match against Solo Sikoa to try to get some revenge. So we might as well just go ahead and get into that match. I mean, it was the main event, but it is what it is. This is just an out of order show. We're not going to go in chronological order here. And I do have a little treat for you guys at the end of the episode, so stay tuned for sure. This episode kind of got away from me, and we just got right into the review, and sometimes that's just the way that the cookie crumbles. But as far as the main event goes, AJ Styles does get a win via disqualification, but this was going to be a win for him either way. I think that AJ Styles, obviously we saw it last week, all the memes that were put out on the internet, he looks great, in phenomenal shape. So do you think that his wrestling is going to take a step back? Probably not. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world already. The fact that he's really sharpening his tools tells me that we probably haven't even seen the best of AJ Styles in this version of himself. Obviously, he's not in his prime like he was back in the mid-2000s, but as far as, AJ Styles being at this stage of his career, there's still a lot of good things left in store for him. But he came out of this match really hot. It was clear that he had some beef with the Bloodline and he wanted to make things right for himself. So he comes out strong, obviously attacking Solo Sikoa, going at him really hard. Solo, because how strong he is, because he's a force in his own right, he's going to stay in the match. He's going to make things interesting, but because AJ Styles is a veteran, because he's just one of the best in the world, that kept him pretty much in control of this match, and he was about to get the win after he hit a phenomenal forearm, but Reigns' interference in the match pretty much leading to the disqualification. And then after the match is over, AJ Styles hits a Pele kick on Roman Reigns, and then obviously Solo gets back up. They start jumping him. Out comes Randy Orton. He rescued AJ Styles, even though AJ Styles earlier in the night made it very clear that he did not want LA Knight or Randy Orton to interfere in his business. Jimmy Uso comes out to make things 3-on-2, and then obviously LA Knight comes out. The quote-unquote babyface team got the upper hand here, but it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows because AJ Styles was not a fan of them coming out to help him. He gets pretty upset immediately, just, hey, I told you guys not to interfere in my business. So LA Knight and AJ Styles kind of start going to blows. They start throwing punches with each other, and then for some reason, Randy Orton and LA Knight start throwing punches too. So this was just like an all-out brawl. You saw almost like hyenas, Jimmy and Solo try to kind of creep back to the ring once they saw that they were they were all beating the hell out of each other. But Roman Reigns, like the genius he is, he pulls them back and says, no, let them do it. These are my opponents. Remember that. These guys are having a triple threat match to try to determine who's going to be my next opponent at the Royal Rumble. Let's let these guys beat the hell out of each other for 2 more hours if they want to. So that was a good way for SmackDown to go off the air. But, it was a pretty good show. I almost cussed. A pretty good show throughout the entirety of this one. We'll go ahead and get into some of the other things that happened here. Bianca Belair, Michin, Shotzi, and Zelina Vega, they had a match against Damage Control, which was titled a Holiday Havoc. It was an 8-woman tag match. Michin really shined in this one. I feel like the teams really worked well together. There were some botches, of course. There's going to be whenever they try to bring in artifacts and make it almost a little bit of like a gimmick match with the Christmas plates there. It was a little bit of a strange visual, but we did get a beautiful splash from Michin to Io Sky through the table, in which she pinned the WWE Women's Champion, which did earn her, I believe, a number 1 contenders match against Io Sky. New Year's Revolution. See, it was New Year's Revolution. That's what it was mentioned down here. So I got that one right. Shout out to my reading skills. But Michin is able to earn herself a number 1 contenders match at that New Year's Revolution episode of SmackDown on January 5th. Truly, I feel like this is going to be interesting. It's a new face. It's a nice fresh matchup. Do I think Michin's going to win that match? Probably not. I'm not necessarily against it or anything. I just think that maybe Io Sky's championship run has a lot more juice left to be squeezed. And I think it has to, coincide with the downfall of Damage Control. Bayley entered the Royal Rumble. We have to see what's going on there. There has to be something, and I think that, this is going to be a pretty juicy finish once Io actually does end up dropping this title. It's not going to be just your typical, hey, I have the champion for 2 months, I ended up dropping it, kind of like Liv Morgan. No, Io won this championship, and she's been holding on to it and defending it pretty well. We also get another championship match here. This was the only actual championship match on the show tonight. There were a lot of other matches with championship connections, such as, the United States Championship Tournament, and obviously Io Sky finding a new number 1 contender for her championship. But this one was the NXT North American Championship. Dragon Lee defends his championship against Butch. This was obviously match of the night. I think this one really hit it out of the park. Butch is clearly going through some things. We don't really know what. He's trying to find himself, I guess, because his partners are gone. So, after the match was over and he lost because of Operation Dragon, he did have a handshake with Dragon Lee, so that's very babyface of him. But backstage, he was talking to a backstage reporter, and he's approached by Pretty Deadly, who are pretty much just trying to rub it in his face and, just have a Christmas-themed Butch is a lonely loser, something like that. I'm not going to try to repeat what they said, but they were just taking a shot at Butch, and he returns it with a physical shot at both of them. Ends up getting split up by all the WWE officials, and then Nick Aldis comes up, tells Butch, all right, you want Pretty Deadly, you got him. New Year's Revolution, just find you a tag team partner. And that opens the door for a lot of different avenues. Is Ridge Holland going to come back and, come save Butch? Is he going to actually find a new partner? There's a lot of different ways they can go here. I am curious to see what they eventually land on. Let me continue on here. We get both of the semifinals matches for the United States Championship Tournament. Kevin Owens defeats Carmelo Hayes after landing a stunner. But it wasn't just a stunner. He also, did the pop-up power bomb. He did a swanton bomb, pretty much is exactly what it is, off of the top rope. And, Carmelo Hayes just wouldn't give up. I think this was the pure example of WWE loving to, quote-unquote, push champions or push wrestlers to the limit. Well, Kevin Owens was pushed to the limit. He absolutely had to earn this one. Carmelo Hayes is nothing to sneeze at. But I will say, Kevin Owens getting the win and, and putting on a show like this with a broken hand is really a credit to him, and you want to give him a big shout out because that's not something that's easy to do. Now, on the other side of the bracket, we get Santos Escobar versus Bobby Lashley. And Santos wins with a roll-up, grabbing Bobby Lashley's tights. But there was a pretty big reveal in this match. There were two men who were wearing Lucha Libre masks who kind of just sneak up behind Lashley. They sneak up on the Street Profits. They interfere in this match, and they, without a doubt, are the only reason why Santos gets the win. And after the match is over, they work their way up the ramp. They take off the masks, and who else is it than Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza. So, yeah, this was a pretty obvious reveal, in my opinion. I mean, if you saw the reports like I did on the internet that this was rumored to be in the case, as soon as I saw two wrestlers show up, two men that were wearing masks, I knew exactly who it was. And I do believe that this group, similar to LWO, similar to LDF, Santos works well when he has a couple lackeys there with him. So this has potential, and I am going to, give it the benefit of the doubt until it drops the ball. Like, until it gives me a reason to not believe in it and think, okay, this is channel changing. This isn't really anything worth paying attention to. That's whenever I'll be out on it. But for now, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I think that this could be a pretty interesting faction, especially if we can somehow get, some version of LWO, have Carlito stay in the group, Zelina can stay in the group, and obviously the tag team. And you might be able to get some faction versus faction action here on SmackDown. Did not mean to rhyme there, but hey, it is what it is. Sometimes it works out like that. And let's continue on here. Actually, I think that is everything that happened on SmackDown. Yes, it is. Actually, we went through all of the matches and some of the big talking points that took place on this episode. Now, like I mentioned, I got a little surprise for you guys. It is Saturday. Stack 'em up Saturday. We got another suggestion. This one from Darren, so I'm going to run through my top 5 finishing moves and or just moves that involve, kicks or knees. So not the Superman punch, not the spear, not the power bomb, not the clothesline, anything like that. This has to involve some type of kick. And I think this is pretty interesting because, a lot of people, they don't categorize it like that. They'll say just your regular finisher or a submission, the crippler crossface, walls of Jericho, the ankle lock. There's so many different finishing moves that you can do, whether it's a submission or a regular one. I don't feel like the moves that involve kicks get the credit and the attention that they deserve. I mean, look at Shawn Michaels. His move got turned into a transition move, and we're going to get into that because you better believe that move is going to be on my top 5. But just really quickly, I will say there are a lot of moves that I feel like are transition moves that are really good, and, they look good on the screen. They have a good sound to them. One of them is the Insecurity. You guys should know what that move is, and the Pele kick as well. There's several different, the 619, that's a visual one that involves Rey Mysterio's feet. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to include that one. So there are some that didn't crack the top 5 that are just, they're transition moves that lead. I know that's technically Rey Mysterio's finisher, but the West Coast Pop is what he actually does after the 619 that kind of gets you down for the count. But at number 5, I had to give it to Shinsuke Nakamura and Adam Cole. They're going to kind of share this one here with the Boom and the Kinshasa. I feel like they're too similar to rank one higher than the other, so I just wanted to give them both the credit here. They're both phenomenal moves and without a doubt belong here in the top 5. At number 4, this one is Kevin Nash, Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, as well as many other wrestlers, usually bigger wrestlers. I think I've seen Kane do it, maybe JBL too. But the Big Boot, this is something that isn't really done anymore. We don't really have the big wrestlers anymore that could just throw their boot right in their face. Charlotte is someone who does this as well. It's a phenomenal move, especially kind of can catch them off guard. You can do similar setups as you do to the spear. Like if you throw them against the ropes, you kind of chase them. You hit the same rope they hit. Whenever they finally turn around after you spinning them, bam, you hit them with the big boot. You could hit it from several different, build-ups. So I had to put that one on the list. At number 3, I have CM Punk and the GTS, a.k.a. the Go to Sleep. Just a great move. This one has won him several matches. We've seen a lot of other wrestlers try to imitate this type of move. It's his, and he's pretty much done it better than anybody else that I've seen. So I had to put it in the top 3 because we're going to be seeing a lot of it going forward. I can promise you that. At number 2, this one might be surprising to some people, but I have HBK in the Sweet Chin Music. People might think, dude, why is this not number 1? This is such a great move. It turning into a transition move. Thank you, Usos. Thank you, Carmelo. Thank you, Young Bucks. Anybody who's done this move a disservice over the years, Shawn Michaels should hit them with the Sweet Chin Music because holy hell, can't believe what I'm seeing. But I had to knock it a little bit. I couldn't put it number 1 just because we see it so often, and just it is not what it used to be, just putting it mildly. At number 1, Aleister Black, Malachi Black, however you know him. But the Black Mass is without a doubt my favorite move that involves, a kick or a knee or any type of lower body strike. The way that he does it, he sets it up, it's just beautiful. It's so believable. Like that, you're literally trying to kick someone's head off, doing a spin, almost roundhouse type kick to the face. It's just my favorite. And I, without a doubt, miss Aleister Black in the WWE. I was really high on him. I loved his theme song, his whole character setup. He's phenomenal in the ring as well, and I think he's one of the best wrestlers that AEW has right now, and someone that I would not mind bringing back and reuniting him with his wife and his former coworkers. Just so many different positives that could come from Aleister Black returning to the WWE. But I'm not going to get greedy. If he is happy in AEW and AEW fans are loving what they're seeing with him, then by all means, let's not break something that isn't broken. But I will quickly recap this top 5. Number 5, Shinsuke and Adam Cole with the Boom and the Kinshasa. Number 4, the Big Boot, which is done by Kevin Nash, Undertaker, and Hulk Hogan. CM Punk with his Go to Sleep. HBK at number 2 with the Sweet Chin Music. And then number 1, the Black Mass, done by Malachi Black. Shout out to Darren for giving me this suggestion. If you have another one, definitely send it my way. And that goes out to everybody out there. If you're a listener of the show, find me on Twitter, message me on the Discord. Just, there's multiple ways that you can get a hold of me, and definitely give me your suggestions because I really want to continue this. I think John and I are going to try, that's the key word, try to record another stock investment draft. We did one for the 2022, final episode of the WWE podcast. I think we're going to do one for the end of 2023 as well. And I'm going to be honest, guys, we did pretty damn good in retrospect. We're going to break down that list and see who drafted the better up-and-comers, whose arrow was trending in the right direction. Definitely looking forward to talking about that with you guys. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Enjoy the time. Just enjoy this very special time in the year. It's going to be a long time before you get a chance to celebrate Christmas again because, it's almost over. I'm recording this the eve of Christmas Eve. So whether you celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day, if you don't celebrate Christmas at all, just, happy holidays, happy new year, and I will definitely talk to you very soon. Walk passionately in the direction of your dreams.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.